Hey guys, it's Tanya. I'm coming back with another update. This one will just be a really brief update, and I'm going to talk about two subjects that came up. One came up in my last video, and one somebody asked me about after they watched my last video. So last time I came in, I think I said I was having a hard time getting off the little bit of weight that I had put on after WLSFA. When I came home, I was 178. And then I think the last time I came in, I was 176. And then this week, I saw 171.7. So back to normal, back in my normal good maintenance range. So happy with that. And actually today, I actually shared on Facebook that it came up exactly 5 years ago today is when I hit my 100 pounds down mark. So that was super exciting. It's exciting to know when I was 100 pounds down, I was 173. And I'm probably 171, 172 today. So 5 years later, I'm still maintaining that same weight loss. Yes, I went up and had some regain, but I brought it back down, and that's great for me. So something that came up in my last video, I said something about sugar addiction, and I could make a whole video just on that. And somebody asked if I would make a video talking about sugar addiction. And I don't want to get too much into the science of it because there are a lot of documentaries and videos, lectures from scientists who actually work on this subject day in and day out. So I'll link a couple of videos down below that I think are particularly useful. But I will say that I do believe that sugar was a real addiction for me. It still is a real addiction for me. And when we consume sugar, it's not only elevating our blood sugar, but it triggers dopamine in our brain, and it spikes dopamine. And there's been studies, a lot of studies, that have shown that sugar is way more addictive than even cocaine. And like I said, one of the researchers, I'll link below, talks about her research in that field. So I think there's a lot to the actual addiction part of it, not just it, tasting good, but triggers that go off in our brain when we eat it. And I said in my last video that I think everybody should get off sugar. I think it's not healthy. Do I think 100% to never eat sugar? I don't think that's realistic. I think everybody's going to have maybe a piece of birthday cake on their birthday, or some thing like maybe at Christmas time. But once or twice a year, I don't think it's going to kill you. But once or twice a week, I couldn't have it just once or twice a week. And I'll kind of go through what my experience was, and this may not be everybody's, but I think it's probably a lot of people's experience. Before I decided to go keto, I was still extremely mindful of what I was eating, and I was trying to be very conscious to try and lose the excess weight. But I was also trying to have things in a moderate way. So I might have like a handful of M&Ms, or I loved having crackers with cheese and strawberries, M&Ms, okay, that's not so healthy, but crackers with cheese and strawberries, that doesn't seem like such a bad thing, right? But when I have a few bites of something, then all I can think about is having more of that food. Like, can I have it at my next meal? Can I have it tomorrow for lunch? I need to go to the store and get enough so I have it all week. And it's not healthy. It's not healthy for me. It's not healthy thinking. And I was very wrapped up in that. And I had this very restrictive mentality that I would track my food, and I would only allow myself to have a portion, but it really affected my thinking. And that's what led to these very out of control feelings. And I said a lot during that time that I wasn't extremely unhappy with the way I looked. I liked the way I looked, even when I was 20 pounds heavier than I am now. I was pleased compared to where I came from, but the thing that bothered me the most was my mentality, that I felt out of control and that I was constantly having to restrict and monitor and limit, and I just didn't like that feeling, and I felt like the food was controlling me. So then fast forward to when I started investigating keto, and two of the benefits was that there's less cravings and then less hunger. Those two things seemed really appealing to me, as I'm sure it would to a lot of people. So I started, and I'll tell everybody, the first 3 days are horrible. Day 3 is really hard. I was thinking about M&Ms all the time. I was thinking, oh, I wish I could have crackers. And you know, I never ate bread, rice, pasta, potatoes, so that was never a thing. But crackers and M&Ms or any kind of like chocolate was difficult for me, and I thought about it a lot. Once I got past day 3, it got easier. Once I got past the first 2 weeks, it got a lot easier, to the point where I was losing my hunger and I was losing the cravings. In fact, I lost the cravings. I was not thinking about it constantly like I had been before. And prior to starting keto, I was eating, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 times a day. I would eat breakfast around 8, I'd eat a snack around 10:30, lunch between 12 and 1, then another snack around 3:30, and then dinner and probably something else snacky at night before I went to bed. Once I started keto, I lost the cravings, and then more so I lost the hunger, which this has been a subject that's come up with in the weight loss surgery community too, about do you have hunger? I had hunger, and but not like hunger like before surgery. I had just emptiness, weakness, just a desire to eat. And after keto, I kind of lost those things, especially in the morning. So what I did was I believe I cut out my first breakfast. I didn't have that 8 o'clock breakfast. That was how I started. And I basically just waited until like 10:30 or 10 o'clock to have my morning snack. Then when I got to that point and I was still not hungry, you know, maybe a couple of weeks down the road, I cut out that morning snack as well. Which leads me to the other question that came up on my last video, was asking me to talk about intermittent fasting. That's when I started intermittent fasting. I gave up breakfast, I gave up my snack between breakfast and lunch, and then I started pushing my lunch back. Now, sometimes I have lunch at 12, sometimes I don't have lunch until 3. At night, sometimes I have my last bit of food at 8 o'clock, sometimes it's 9 o'clock, sometimes it's 10 o'clock. I don't have a rigid set schedule. I really try and follow my body, and if my body's asking for something, I eat it. If it's 12 o'clock, I don't try and push myself to 3 o'clock. I'm like, oh, I'm feeling empty and weak, I need to eat something now. But if it's 1 o'clock and I'm still not feeling that way, I just don't eat. I just push it back. So I, on a normal day, do a fast anywhere from, it just really depends, like maybe 14 hours would be my shortest time of going without eating. Like that would be like 10 o'clock at night until 12 o'clock the next day. And then sometimes a lot longer. And I kind of debated over talking about this in a video, but I actually did an extended fast for 49 hours this week, just to monitor my hunger and get a feel for if that was something I was really even interested in. It's not advisable to do if you're not doing keto, and if you haven't been doing keto for very long. You need to really be fully fat adapted for your body to know how to tap into its fat stores to utilize that fat for energy while you're doing an extended fast. I don't know if I'll ever do it again, but I do intermittent fasting, which would be the 14 hours to 18, 20, maybe 22 hours of not eating, just because I'm not hungry. I don't do long ones where I only do one meal a day almost ever, because I just can't eat enough in one meal because of the VSG to get enough calories in on just a regular intermittent fasting day. So on the days that I do intermittent fasting, I have at least 2 meals. I have my lunch, which might be pushed back, and then my dinner, which if it's on a workout day, it will be pushed back to later, sometime after 8 o'clock. My biggest struggle right now is with still wanting to have a snack at night. It's been a struggle that I've had forever. I've been fighting it. I've been consciously fighting it since VSG surgery. And I have times where I'm really good and sometimes when I'm really not. But I will say that it's easier now, because before I started keto, what I wanted during that late night snack was M&Ms or something carby. And now that I know I can't have that and I don't really crave that, it's kind of like, well, what am I going to eat? I've been trying to limit my cheese. That was the other thing I kind of went to after starting keto. And I don't really eat cheese that much anymore unless I'm out. So it's kind of like, well, what am I going to do? I have a pepperoni? Maybe. Sometimes I will have some pepperonis. I have the Lily's chocolates that I'll melt, and I'll have that. But I'm still trying to work on not having that late night snack anymore. But it's much easier to do and to give up than it was prior to. So I think giving up the sugar that cut my cravings helps me control my blood sugar, which helps me control my insulin, which helps control fat storage, is all what contributes to my success since I started doing keto. Like I said, I'll link the videos below talking about sugar addiction. And I'll link one that I actually saw today that Dr. Jason Fung, I really, really enjoy his lectures about fasting. He talks about intermittent fasting and extended fast. He has a book out about it. I have not read the book, but I've watched a lot of his lectures. And what I like about it is that he says it's not anything you have to buy. There's no program you have to enroll in. You just don't eat. And it's not like a starvation type thing. It's just giving your body a brief break. And I know that might be controversial. And my only issue with any kind of extended fast is for people who might have eating disorders that it might get triggered by not eating. So I would say I wouldn't try it if you have any kind of eating disorder where you want to withhold food. But if I don't have that issue, no, I like to eat, and I have no desire to not eat for a long period of time. Like I said, I just tried it this week just to see how it felt and to listen to my body and my hunger cues. And honestly, I didn't have very many hunger cues. I had a couple of low blood sugar events, but I ate some extra salt and a little no salt for potassium, and it bounced back up and it was fine. But it wasn't until the end of the second day that I started feeling like, oh, I think I probably should eat something. I was actually going to try and go for 3 days, but I listened to my body, and I had some scrambled eggs that night and broke the fast that way with some protein and some fat because I had cooked the eggs in butter, and felt great the next morning. I did intermittent fasting the next day. I didn't eat lunch until noon, and I felt fantastic. So if you have any questions about anything, please reach out to me. I'm always happy to talk to people and talk about my experience. I am not an expert. I'm not a medical professional. I'm just working on things that I'm investigating and trying and biohacking myself. All right. Hope this is helpful to somebody. Thanks, guys.